welcome back to my channel. This week is Mental Health Awareness Week 2021, and I thought it would be a good time to delve into my own mental health history. As a child growing up, I had a lot of energy, a lot of energy. I was like a pinball machine, pow, 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 pow. And my poor mother, in order to cope with this amount of energy that I had, she just put me into a lot of sports from a very young age. I did everything under the sun, you name it. Monday to Sunday, I was in sports. And this kind of kept me busy and kept me focused, but it was obvious I had some sort of underlying undiagnosed ADD, ADHD, and bless my mom's heart, she did the best thing possible for me. I was a pretty happy kid. However, as soon as I hit puberty and my hormones started to arrive, I really started to struggle with my mental health. I was around 11 or 12 years old the first time I cut my wrists. I tried to think back to the reason why I did it, and although I'm not going to share this here, it's something that a lot of kids go through, It was just really strange at such a young age that that's what I used as a coping mechanism. I must have seen it on the TV or read about it in order to know to do that. But I just think back to, an 11-year-old feeling that low, and that was my way out. Sadly, from the age of about 11 through to 16, I would use self-harm as a coping mechanism at times when I was stressed or I was going through something difficult. So like I said, I had no idea why I started self-harming. All I knew in my 11, 12-year-old head was that it just gave me some sort of release. So I don't want to go too far into the actual act of self-harming. I don't want this to be triggering for anybody who may be watching. But throughout my lifetime, when people have noticed the scars on my arms, and not everybody, some people see them and don't say anything, but a lot of people actually ask me why did you do that? And it's a really hard question to answer, and still to this day, I don't know. I just know that even in my little brain, I knew that I just felt a release from it. And I think that's as far as I'm gonna go into the reasons as to why I chose to self-harm when I was going through tough times. And trust me guys, there are 300 million better ways to cope with it. I just hadn't developed those strategies yet. And that's why I used to rely on it. It was almost like if there was something stressful going on in my life, I'd feel like I couldn't cope with it up until the point where I felt like I would explode if I didn't get that release. And all I can say is at that point, it was really calming, just taking a really deep breath. I was 14 years old before my mum realized that I'd been self-harming. I remember coming out of the shower one day, I'd forgotten to put my bracelets back on, and she saw the cuts on my wrists. And I just remember her being so upset. She couldn't understand why I was doing it, where I'd gotten it from. And it's just the secrecy, isn't it, And I was just so ashamed when she'd seen it. Thankfully, my mum was really understanding, and she told me to go see a counsellor. Somebody who was a third party that wasn't involved in my relationship, in my life. Somebody that can just give a third party objective perspective and help you cope when these times of stress do arise. And honestly, it was one of the best things that I could have done for myself. I remember just being so ashamed that everyone had found out. My mum had told my dad, my sister knew I was having to go to the counsellor. I was just so embarrassed. I never wanted to talk about it. It had been my secret for years, and now it was out. And I remember going into the counsellor's office and just being oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk about it. How am I supposed to explain this? What am I going to say? I'm gonna have to stop. I had absolutely no idea how I was supposed to tell this woman that I'd been self-harming for 4 or 5 years. I just wasn't used to that kind of setting, sitting down and telling someone my feelings and my problems. From the outside world looking in, it looked like I had it all, I'd got to the All England dance finals, I was in the centre of excellence for football, I'd won the Channel Island Championships in gymnastics, I was an 8 times world karate champion. I had really good grades in school, I had loads of friends, I'd had a couple of boyfriends by then. So, I'm sure anybody looking in at my life would have been shocked to have learned I'd been self-harming for all that time. To this day, I am so appreciative to my mum for making me go and see that counsellor. You really have no idea how much it can help just to speak to somebody who's not involved in all of your drama. Somebody there who's kind of on your side, you know? They're there to tell you when you're in the wrong, but to help you come to that realization by yourself, so that you don't feel the anger and the resentment that you would if, say, your mum or your friend were to tell you the same thing. In this day and age, I feel like doctors are so quick to put people on drugs, antidepressants, and just mask the illness. But if you go to therapy, you find ways to cope. So for me, something that was so helpful was CBT therapy. And in the end, that's what really helped me combat all my anger issues, my depression, my stress. A lot of my mental health was due to the fact that I would fly off the handle quickly. I had a short temper. I didn't process things properly. I didn't take criticism well. So the CBT enabled me just to cope with my feelings and make my reactions towards them better, which in the long run helped me deal with a lot of my stress. My counsellor also helped me by giving me various methods to stop self-harming. A lot of the obvious things, the really simple things, worked. So I wore an elastic band on my wrist for years, and I would ping that until the urge to self-harm was over. So I urge anyone, if you are suffering with any mental health issues, if you have any history of self-harm, please go and talk to somebody. Talkie therapy really is one of the best things that you can do. By talking to my counsellor, I was finally able to share this secret, this burden that I've been carrying for so many years, and I was finally on the road to recovery. So I know that it can be really daunting thinking about going and seeing a counsellor or a therapist, but trust me, it's so much better talking out your problems and discussing your behaviour rather than just getting that instant gratification from the cutting. I realised there was no easy way out, and I realised I needed to work on myself if I was going to deal with all the stresses that life was throwing me in a healthy way. And if you are watching any of this and it resonates with you, please do look up CBT therapy online. CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioural Therapy. It basically helps you to retrain your thought process. Now, I don't know if you're like me, whether when things go wrong, you lash out at those around you, you get stressed out and you make the situation worse for yourself. But CBT basically allows you to take control of your mind before you see red, before you lash out. So please, like I said, if you've got any mental health issues, if you struggle with self-harm, eating disorders, please go and see a counsellor. And in the meantime, check out CBT online. Seeing a counsellor about my depression and my self-harm was one of the best things I could have done on my mental health journey. However, it would still be another 5 or 6 years until I stopped cutting completely. So the story continues. Obviously, I was a little bit of a depressed teenager listening to My Chemical Romance and a load of other embarrassing emo bands, but who wasn't at that age? But this was more than just a teenage depression. I'd always had dark thoughts from a very young age, as far as I can remember. And when I hit puberty, I could no longer cope with these feelings. So my hormones were raging, and I already struggled to cope with my emotions as it was, and when you put puberty in there, it was just a nightmare. I actually think back now to some of the ways I behaved, mainly towards my mother, and I am just mortified. But I was just a massive, raging bag of emotions and depression, and it was just terrible. Around the age of 16, I really took a decline with my mental health. At this point, when I was seeing the counsellor, I'd stopped all my sports, I'd put on a lot of weight. You see, I got into a relationship and I was quite happy. However, when the relationship ended, I realised I had nothing again. I had no sports, I put on a lot of weight. And it wasn't until one day I went shopping with my mum, and God bless her heart, she was trying to get me dresses that were like, you know, fitted at the boobs and went out at the tummy. And I was just devastated. I remember having to borrow her jeans because I didn't fit into any of my clothes. And that was when I was like, okay, enough is enough. So instead of exercising and eating right and losing weight the healthy way, I did what I always do, and I went all or nothing. So I joined the gym and I was going every day for hours on end, just doing hours and hours of cardio on the treadmill, on the cross trainer. I'd go to any classes that were on, and at this point I was just doing one meal a day. So I probably was surviving on about 400 or 500 calories, about 4 or 5 hours of cardio. And I did this for around 6 months until I went to university. I was clearly ill. It was all I was obsessed with, just losing weight, losing weight. And at that time, it was still quite in to be size 0 and to be skinny. And there were pro anorexia sites all over the internet. And I remember just coming home after doing hours and hours of cardio, having like a jacket potato, and then just spending hours reading these forums where the girls encouraged each other to have an eating disorder. So obviously when I began this, I was very down. I'd broken up with my boyfriend. However, I was going to uni. I just received amazing grades for GCSEs. And again, from the outside world looking in, I'm sure people just thought, she's got it all sorted out for her. Like, she couldn't have a mental illness. She couldn't be depressed. But in my experience, depression, it isn't something you can really explain. For me, there was no reason I became depressed. It just seemed as though I was born that way, like I was predispositioned to feel like that forever, because it was kind of what I'd always known, even when I'd excelled in life. So my teen years were really hard, and I remember days waking up just thinking I didn't want to get out of bed. I remember really thinking I wanted to die, and some of the cuts that I made whilst I was self-harming, they were quite deep. They weren't just superficial cuts. I was going in with the intention of killing myself. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to any teenagers who may be watching and maybe feel like this. Trust me, it gets better. It's a hard period of your life right now, but it's mainly your hormones. Try and deal with it in a healthy way through exercise and seeing a counsellor. Don't suffer like I did in silence. So by the time I went to uni, I'd lost a dramatic amount of weight. I was so thin and so gaunt, and I remember being proud of it and taking pictures of the bones that were sticking out of me. And it was quite clear I'd developed an eating disorder. Then I wound up on Big Brother. Now, thankfully at this point, my mental health was pretty strong. I was doing okay. I'd moved away from home. I hadn't cut myself in quite a while. I was already suffering with the eating disorder when I'd moved to uni, and in my second year it probably just got worse. I bought a Nintendo Wii Fit and I had Just Dance, and I remember I used to spend hours in my flat just dancing and rarely eating more than one meal a day. So when I went into Big Brother, psychologically I was fine, mentally in my head, but obviously the food thing really affected me. I was really picky with food because I would only eat certain foods. It was just a real nightmare, and obviously that really came out in the show, mainly in the form of my bacon obsession. But if you look at when I went into Big Brother, I weighed about 8.5, 9 stone. When I came out, I was 7 stone. Here is when I entered the house, and this is when I came out. So as you can see, my eating disorder had like really developed in there because I just wasn't able to eat. And I was so skinny when I came out, it took me a long time to regain that weight. So I put myself out there into the world, and of course I was always going to be open for criticism. However, I feel like Big Brother went as well as it possibly could have done for me. Now, I can't watch it back because I am so cringed out by myself. The fact that I was just so young and so naive and so weak, like, it's embarrassing. If I was back in there now, I would be a completely different person. But I've had this conversation with my mum a few times, so it's probably a good thing I was, quite weak and like that, because I didn't get myself into any trouble. The public were amazing on my way in and my way out. I was cheered both times. There was hardly any negative press about me. It was really fantastic. However, I had to go back to another year at uni and everybody knew me. So I don't think I felt a lot of pressure from that. I was fine. I was really happy to talk about my experience. I was like proud I was on Big Brother. Me and my mom have watched it from the very beginning, avid fans. So it was fine when I was in the UK. However, when I came back to Jersey, let's just say, people had different perspectives on me going on the show, and yeah, people kind of made it known. You see, in England, like, people would recognize me and come up and speak to me and ask for pictures, whereas in Jersey, people would like whisper about me, and I was always like getting paranoid, like, why are people talking about me? I don't know, people had this like misconception that I was just this fame hungry person that just wanted to be on the TV. No guys, I was studying criminology and sociology. Big Brother started as a social experiment. You know, when the first series aired, they used to have the psychologist, and that's what I loved about the show. I mean, I was on the Channel 5 version. It was pretty obvious I wasn't going to become instantly famous and rich overnight like the old Channel 4 stars had. So it got me quite down that that's what people in Jersey had to say about it, when I thought it was just such a fun and epic experience, and I went on there purely because I couldn't afford to go on holiday to Zante and ended up having like the coolest summer ever. So that got me down a bit, but I was off back to uni and all right again. After coming back from uni, obviously I didn't have any focus anymore. I wasn't doing any of my childhood sport. And once again, my mental health just took a sharp decline. I was doing a job that I didn't really like, and I had nothing else in my life. I was going through unhealthy relationships just to try and, I don't know, fill that void. And it wasn't until I found bodybuilding that I can say my mental health dramatically improved. I was 25 when bodybuilding came into my life, and instantly, straight away, I loved it. If you'd like to watch me talk about how I got into bodybuilding and how I used it to combat my depression, check this video out here. I think this was like the first video I ever did that I talked about that, so go and have a look at that. But yeah, I had a really good few years where my mental health was fantastic. I was exercising and I thought, this is it, I found the key. I wasn't self-harming, everything was a-okay. And long story short, I went through a bad breakup that involved violence, and I went straight back into my shell, and even bodybuilding at this point just didn't really help with my mental health anymore. All this happened around the time of Romania and the Arnolds, and my whole life went whirlwind up in smoke. And following this, I just made a string of bad decisions. I stopped training. I was going out all the time and drinking. I just wasn't hanging around with the right people. I was just really making bad life choices. And I just like to quickly touch now on alcohol. If you do suffer with any mental health issues, just please avoid alcohol. Whenever I was drunk and something stressful happened, I would automatically go to self-harm. Whereas if the same things had happened when I was sober, I might not self-harm. But when I was drunk, my feelings and my depression were just exacerbated, and it made things a whole lot worse. When I wasn't drinking, I could use my coping strategies like CBT. However, when I was drunk, all that training just went out the window. I know from personal experience that my mental health when I am drunk is unpredictable. I know that because alcohol is a depressant, I am so depressed and anxious for days afterwards. Obviously, alcohol is full of calories, and I manage to get really bloated and puffy every single time I drink. And I'd say that growing up after the age of about 16, I was much more likely to self-harm when I was under the influence of alcohol. So please, any mental health issues, any self-harm, just think about quitting alcohol. It's the best thing for you. So after the Arnolds, obviously my confidence took a massive hit. I had come last and I was absolutely devastated. My self-esteem, my confidence, I was just so low. Obviously at this time, my life was suffering for it. My work was suffering for it, my relationships. Like I said, I kept making really bad decisions. And it was at that point in my life that I remember for the first time feeling anxiety. Now, I've touched on the fact that I had depression a lot as a kid, and I used self-harm as a coping mechanism. But anxiety was something that I hadn't really felt before. I mean, I was a performer. I was used to being on stage all the time. I rarely get nervous. When I'm standing in the wings waiting to go on stage, I just have adrenaline like pumping. I'm just like ready to get on stage, like amped. So anxiety for me was something I'd never felt before. And obviously it's something really hard to describe, but for me it's like a nervousness, like I get short of breath and my heart goes, and it's awful. And honestly, I felt so lucky that I'd got to the age of 28, and I'd never experienced that in my life. And I knew at that time it was just time to stop what I'd been doing, to stop going out, to stop the ridiculous behavior, and just get back on track for my own mental health. From all the drinking, I'd put on so much weight. I was embarrassed to go on social media. Right before all this had happened, I was on like a roll of doing lives and getting people on and interviewing them. But I was just so conscious of the fact I put on so much weight, my face was so puffy, and I wasn't a bodybuilder anymore. So what was I supposed to be posting about? I wasn't bodybuilding. It wasn't inspiring what I was doing. So I just felt like a bit of a fraud, and I just completely withdrew from everything and everyone associated with my like fitness life. This was a long period of my life. It went on from about May through till November, and I just really didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't know how I was gonna pull myself from this awful routine and the no structure and not training and going out and drinking all the time. But somehow, luckily, at Christmas, I met Aaron and I was finally happy again. I finally had some ambition, some va-va-voom to do something. I'd applied for the Arnolds and I said to Aaron, look, I just need to get out of Jersey. Before we get into this, I just want you to know, I want to go somewhere, I want to move to Australia, I want to follow my dreams, I don't want to stay in Jersey thinking what if and regret it. So I made the decision to get on the plane and go to Australia. And honestly, I was the happiest I've been probably in my entire life. I had Aaron coming a few weeks later. I had the job of my dream starting at Doherty's. Not to sound cliche, it really was a dream come true. So, absolute life story. Now, I'm in Australia and I am so happy and I'm buzzing, and Aaron's due to come and everything's amazing, and then boom, COVID hits and everything goes to pot. Aaron's flight's cancelled, he can't come and join me, I've got to get out of my apartment, the rent's absolutely ludicrous in Melbourne. So I start thinking, I applied to so many jobs, and I'm talking about everything from toilet cleaners to garage attendants. I applied for everything and did not hear back from one single job. So I'm thinking to myself, okay Lauren, how can you make some income here without a job? Obviously, you know, I could get into my online coaching, I got my PT qualification, but I was just a bit nervous and I didn't feel like I had the experience to put myself out there yet and charge people for that. So I thought, okay, I've got an OnlyFans account. Now, I'd had this OnlyFans account since March 2019. So I set it up with my friend after the first Arnold's I competed in, because it had almost bankrupted me to get my pro card, to go to Romania, to go to Australia, and I needed some money. Now, I was doing all the hours at overtime that God sent, and it just wasn't enough. So my friend was like, hey, have you heard about OnlyFans? And I was like, no. So she showed me it and I was like, all right, do you think I could do an OnlyFans? And she was like, oh yeah. And I was like, yeah, you know, like I've done implied nudes for nuts before. Implied nudes is like, you know, when you're like, just doing a little cheeky hand in it. Like if you look at the photos I did after Big Brother, for nuts, these are implied topless photos. So that was already out there and that was on the internet, and it was something I was really proud of. I was really happy with my body at that point. I put some weight on after Big Brother and I thought I looked really good. So I was like, well, I'll set up an OnlyFans account. I'll do more photo shoots like the ones I did after Big Brother and I can make some money from it. And so I set that account up in 2019 and I wasn't especially active on it. I had a few photos on it. I was really bad at updating it regularly, but I was making a couple of $100s off it each month and that was helping. So I just kind of kept it ticking over. But when I was in Australia and I was stuck with no job and this ridiculously high rent, I thought, okay, let's research this OnlyFans, let's see what it's about. And so I saw what people who were popular creators were doing and I researched it. So I decided I was going to invest some more time into this and try to make some money to enable myself to stay in Australia. So I researched what was popular. I also researched, can you make enough money off OnlyFans by not doing nudes and only doing implied? And it came back that you could absolutely do that. So I got to work and I set up my camera and I took a few photos around my apartment and I started uploading to OnlyFans regularly, and I put it on my Twitter and my social media and I promoted it for the first time. And honestly, at this point I'm quite excited because the money's rolling in and I'm thinking, okay, Aaron can't get here, I can't start working, but I might be able to support myself with this. This is fantastic. It's empowering, I feel sexy. There's nothing more of me on the internet than there was with my nuts pictures, and I was enjoying it. It's exciting being able to go onto an app and see yourself making money by doing something that you enjoy. So when I woke up in Melbourne to about 3,000 messages saying that my OnlyFans content had been leaked, I was just I was just surprised that people would take the time to leak the content and make such a big deal of it when these sorts of photos of me are already on the internet. It went around Jersey like wildfire. Apparently people had WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, and people were contacting my friends and my mum and Aaron. And I'd just like to say at this point that obviously my friends knew I had it, my mum knew I had it. In fact, we had even talked about content ideas for the page. And most importantly, Aaron knew that I had it. Aaron's comfortable enough in himself as a man not to be insecure that I'm on a platform like that. We have enough trust that he knows that our boundaries are respected, and I would never cross that line. And the fact that people were getting involved and sending it to him like, oh my God, your missus is doing this. It was just ludicrous and started so much unnecessary drama. And the drama didn't stop there either. A group of girls in Jersey took it upon themselves to take a load of my photos and post them on Facebook along with a horrible caption. Do you want to see something that will make you piss your fucking pants? Just been sent it and can't even reply. I've got to send it to you. Oh my God, she must actually have serious issues though. Like serious attention seeking issues. Why would any normal person be that much of attention seeking fanny while looking like a full-blown man? And seriously, Danielle was a proper sweetie when she was little. I can't believe she's done that to her. She needs to be put in Joe Exotic Zoo. Just for reference, Danielle is my sister who knew all about the OnlyFans and was so supportive during this entire debacle. You think she actually posted this herself? You can't be that desperate for cash, surely. I didn't know we were in a world where women bring other women down for doing glamour modeling. It's so sad. Oh my God, her arms in that top picture, what the fuck? So they didn't like the bodybuilding either. Some people came on the post and started defending me, and they got attacked too. For example, he's worried if we tell people about her, he won't get his discount. He obviously pays to see her live. The ugly... What? Has she messaged you? Listen, she can't be angry. It's just free advertising, no. She's probably made up. Any attention is good. Guys, I was just trying to support myself away from home in a country that I couldn't get a job in. Sorry. Money can't buy class. Serious and desperation. I've known her whole life, as if Big Brother wasn't enough for her. This is actually quite sad. Like, to be that desperate in need for attention, I actually feel for her. I'm sorry, but if you're willing to sell yourself and willing to post shit like this everywhere for attention, you can't cry when you get attention. It's actually illegal to share OnlyFans content online like you guys are doing. And if I'd have wanted to, I could have taken action, legal action, but it just wasn't worth it at the time. For me, the fact that these girls took the time to post my photos on Facebook and then all comment on it and share it, surely that's more attention seeking than me having a little business on the side where I take pictures of the body that I'm proud of and support myself. What a train wreck. I don't think she's a train wreck, just an average scared attention seeking hoe. This is so ironic. One of the girls that's putting me through all this, publicly trying to humiliate me, has then written, she has no decorum whatsoever. The girl has no self-respect and no morals or loyalist. I think that's supposed to be loyalty, the spelling mistakes in all of this and the grammar. I won't comment. That bitch is an off-track tramp. An off-track tramp. That's a new one. I hadn't heard that one before now. You want to be getting your vag out, then suck it up, buttercup. And obviously there were no nude photos of me. And you know what? Even if there were, we are in the 21st century. We are women trying to support ourselves. I work hard for this body and I'm very proud of it. So why shouldn't I make money from it if that's what I choose to do? Reading comments like that obviously really hurt me, and I was alone in Melbourne, in the city centre, in an apartment by myself. It was a really tough time, and yeah, I got to some really low points and I just felt like the self-harm was gonna start again. It had been 4 years or so since I'd last done that, but I just felt like everyone was talking about me and I could deal with it. I took those pictures. I was happy to post them online. My thought process with OnlyFans is, if you weren't happy for this to be posted online and for everyone to see it, don't send it. And that's kind of what I stick to. And everything that I had on there was exactly the same as had been on there before. So when I found out that these pictures had been leaked and everyone had WhatsApp groups and whatever and was looking at them in Jersey, I was like, okay, no worries. I know that no nude photos are gonna come out. I know there's nothing there. Everything that I've posted, I'd be happy for it to be online, so it was okay. But the backlash that my family and Aaron had to face over it was just so unfair. I'm just so glad that I got to the point in my mental health where I knew how to deal with things that stressed me out. And to be honest, this had turned my world upside down. My phone was just going off the hook with people messaging me to tell me that this had been spread. There was WhatsApp groups, these girls are putting this on Facebook. It was just insane. But more for them, because that was my best month on OnlyFans that I've ever had. Over about 150 people signed up within about 2 days, all paying that $20. So my rent was completely taken care of. And that was the whole reason I'd become so much more active on it. So really, I had the last laugh, girls. Thanks for the promotion. You guys let me have an awesome apartment for the next couple of months. You made me realize how strong my relationship is with Aaron. You made me realize who my true friends were and who would be there for me when the going got tough. And best of all, you made me realize that I'd come through my mental health issues, that I'd come through my self-harming, because this was easily one of the worst things to happen in my life. Having people publicly humiliating me, publicly defaming me, publicly slandering my name, and illegally sharing my content online. Okay, I might have had a little breakdown at first. It was shocking to realize that these girls would do something like that, but I came out of it. I didn't self-harm, I dealt with it really well, and I'd realized I'd matured, because still to this day, I haven't lashed out at those girls that did that to me. I didn't bother to take the time to speak to any of them, because they're just bullies, and at the end of the day, I wasn't gonna lower myself to their level, so I just continued doing what I was doing. At this time, the sad news had broke that Caroline Flack had taken her own life, and the hashtag Be Kind movement was all over social media. Funnily enough, when I went onto some of these girls' profiles, they had shared the hashtag Be Kind movement, and I just couldn't believe the irony of it. You don't realize on the internet, when you're sat behind a keyboard, just how much your words might hurt someone. So please, the next time you think about bullying someone online, remember that it hurts just as much as if it was in person. I'm just so grateful that I had come so far within my mental health that I didn't do anything stupid when all that was happening. I think back to when I was 16, and if this had happened then, I'm not sure I'd be sitting here right now. I urge you to think about what somebody might be going through, what their mental health status might be, and choose your words wisely. And while we are on the subject of OnlyFans, I would like to touch on it. I am so incredibly grateful for the platform OnlyFans, because it's allowed me a safe space to release content like my lingerie and glamour model content, where I can get paid for it. Unfortunately, lads mags aren't a thing anymore, or I'd still be doing those. But it's not only that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that OnlyFans celebrates all body types, all shapes, all sizes. It supports the LGBT community, everyone. It's a fantastic platform, and it was such a shame that a few bullies put such negative connotations on it. And I didn't understand why they were trying to embarrass me by sharing these photos. Like I said, the same thing was in nuts. I'm a bodybuilder. I prance around on stage half naked, for goodness sake. So why shouldn't I be free to celebrate my body? My body is covered in scars and tattoos. It has blotches, it has blemishes, but it's mine. It's home to me, and I can do what I want with it. I just can't believe I was bullied because I was okay with that. OnlyFans has also improved my mental health. It's totally revived my confidence and really helped with my anxiety. The anxiety that I developed sometime last year when my drinking got bad, and also the anxiety off the back of these girls' comments. There are some that I just didn't read out because they're just too much for YouTube, but it really did knock my self-esteem for some time. However, my fans on my OnlyFans page are absolutely incredible. They make me feel good about myself every day. So to everyone that is signed up for my OnlyFans, thank you for giving me back my confidence and actually allowing myself to be proud of the skin I'm in and to love my body. There are a few important lessons that I've learned. Firstly, you have to learn to love yourself completely, fully. If you don't love you, then how on earth is anybody else going to love you? Learn from your mistakes in the past, but don't dwell on them. The past doesn't make you who you are, but the future can define who you want to be. Something my mum taught me from an early age: you are the only person that is capable of changing your own life. If you're not happy, change it. If your mental health isn't good, seek help. Nothing will change without you making a difference. Please remember that you are enough, that you are worthy, that you do deserve to be loved. The way in which you talk to yourself in your own head is so important. So please, just be kind to yourself, even just a small way like that. Your thoughts become things, and if you think of yourself badly, you're going to feel badly. If you think of yourself in a positive light, watch all the positive things that will happen. Just as I said not to let your past define you, please don't let the words of others define you either. For such a long time in my life, I would take what others said about me, negative things, and I would believe them. When people have their own narrative for you, and they keep repeating it, it's hard not to start to believe what they're saying. Well, fuck that, write your own narrative. I've learned as I've gotten older that people only remember the last bad thing you did. It doesn't matter if you did 1,000 good things before that. People only focus on the negative. And there's nothing you can do to change that. You know in your heart of hearts if you're a good person, and that's all that really matters. So let go of the past, forgive those who have done wrong to you, and treat others how you expect to be treated. It really does upset me looking back that I let the words of others dictate who I was, my happiness and my well-being. When deep down, my friends and my family and the people who were important and close to me knew exactly who I was, and they loved me. So if you made it to the end of this video, congratulations. I know it's been quite a heavy and long video, but it was always going to be about my mental health. So I just want you guys to know, if you are watching and you have struggled with any of the issues that I've been through, you can come out the other side. I'm 29 years old now, and I'm happy to say that I have been free from self-harm for 5 years. To mark the 5-year occasion, I got a tattoo to cover some of the cuts on my wrists. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. Although I'm not shy when it comes to speaking about mental health, I do feel like people look at them and they judge me straight away. It's also a really long story to have to try and explain to people. So I've had this arm done. I'm not sure if you can see real properly on here, but I had a cut that run from here to here that was quite deep, that's covered by the writing. More cuts along here. And then this cut was one of my worst, my deepest here. It says, "Those who don't believe in magic will never find it." And then the wand is from Harry Potter, one of my favourite books from when I was a child. And obviously there's my lucky number 28. On my other wrist, I got the tattoo Happiness. This was in Australia during COVID. And basically, this is serotonin and this is dopamine. Together, these are the molecules that make happiness. Now, ignore the burn, that's from my wand. Oh, I also did my neck earlier. So, I'm not a girl. This is the tattoo I got in Australia because I was so happy. I felt so far from the depression and the self-harm I'd felt all my life. This was just a reminder that if I ever felt like I wanted to cut again, I'd look down at that and I wouldn't be able to. And it's kind of the same with this one. Because my arm's so covered now, I can't cut at it because it's just so beautiful. And although I really hope that I never ever get to the point in my life where I feel like I need to self-harm again, I know that this will be such a massive deterrent. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm cured from my mental illness or that I'll ever completely get over it. But now I've got coping mechanisms, healthy coping mechanisms to use when I feel like I'm going to self-harm. And I've endured a number of stressful situations in the last 5 years, and I'm so proud to say that I dealt with those emotions in the right way. I hope this brought up some awareness for Mental Health Week 2020, and I hope that if you take one thing from this, please speak to somebody if you are struggling. You're not alone in this. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. It just really helps my channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Look after yourself, people.